I would like to know ultimately what a psychic attack is and what we can do about it to help protect ourselves.
Ooh, this is a very good question. I need a sip of water before I start this one.
Same. Cheers.
Okay, sometimes the psychic attacks, I'm going to start with the ones that I almost always clear out with my psychic mediums first. So, like in my psychic mediumship course, I specifically added extra days because I realized, oh, I need to clear you out from like entities and other things while you're learning to channel, or else this is going to take longer, or else we're like on the slow bus to get into where our destination is. Some of these psychic attacks are coming from ancestors who never crossed over properly and or entities that were placed in your lineage because of numerous things. It could have been a family curse. It could have been like super hyper religious dogma. It could have been abusive patterns. The things that come up around that are numerous. There's numerous things, but oftentimes what's causing psychic attacks is likely what's been there your entire life. And it's not until we start getting you on the channeling trajectory and initiating you in your psychic abilities do we see, oh, this is what's blocking you. Oh, you have this entity or this ancestor that never crossed over properly, or this loved one on the other side who was, for example, like murdered. And because they passed over in a very tragic and traumatic way, they never got to the light fully. And that's blocking the entire lineage from being able to connect to their own higher light. So there's a lot of little things like that that I see most. That is like one of the most typical things. It's the ancestral blocks and the entities and energies associated around that. That's the psychic attack. The other thing is when you're around people who are not in the frequency of love and authenticity and dedicated to a path of higher wisdom or a higher calling, if you're around them too long, you will share entities. Entities are like these little, I know this sounds a little maybe much, but it's just what's coming through. It's like an STD, right? It like gets transposed from one person to one person because no one's consciously aware, oh, hey, after I hung out with that person, I didn't feel so great. And they don't really understand the grounding practices that it takes to clear these things out. And they're very real. You can pick them up from friends, family, you can pick them up from the grocery store. Okay. You can get these in passing. You just have to become just much more consciously aware of your spiritual mechanical equipment. That's what I tell people, because when you are, you'll start to see, oh, wait, I'm feeling like really anxious and there's nothing about today that's really going to incite my own anxiety. So what's going on? And you'll see, oh, I picked up an entity from X, Y, and Z. Solid example that I have. Every time I travel and every time I pick up entities at airports like crazy. I'm like with Florida water, I'm like grounding. There are so many entities at airports, and because there's so many different people, different kinds of people, different things going on with travel, you know, why people are traveling. There's all kinds of like things going on. And there's a lot of shared spirits, entities that are flying around these airports and in these planes as we're traveling. So I have to like clear before, during, and after. And if I forget to, I am significantly more tired because of psychic attacks. You realize how prevalent it is. It's not to scare people, but let me tell you, it is an everyday occurrence, and it becomes an everyday part of my practice to like really keep these things at bay, which grounding practice is super important. Earthing, herbs, spiritual baths, salts, palo santo, sage. There's so many different things. Resins, burning resins is really good too. But I find like grounding mats that I live by my grounding mat. I sleep on it every night for this very reason. Grounding mats and herbs for me are like my magic. And what works for you is going to be specific to you. And the purpose is to try different things until you figure out this is for me. This is what really works for me. The spiritual baths and the grounding mat or the palo santo and, you know, whatever the case might be. But it is specific to your frequency and what you need.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and I have a grounding mat underneath my desk because
Okay.
I needed
Okay.
something, like, while working with people
Yes.
electronically and through a computer. It's because, like, I want to feel grounded in this interaction. I have 2 very specific times in my life where I really felt it was in the beginning of my spiritual awakening, and I would have the entities come to me at night, but I didn't know what it was. And it was terrifying, but I was so inspired to connect to my spiritual gifts that I did not have any sort of boundaries or practices in mind to clear that out. And so that was something that I learned over time. And looking back, I'm like, oh, of course, that's what it was. But the scary thing for me was it was making me feel like people in my own life were not having the best of intentions for what I was doing. And so that scared me. And so that was one thing that was like they were posing as different of what they actually were. And it wasn't until one of my spiritual teachers talked about that for herself, that someone was posing as someone in their life and then realized it was a dark side. The other one was I had to have my deviated septum fixed. And I don't know if it was a psychic attack, but honestly felt like I could not tell if my psychic abilities started to get better and more connected or if it was a psychic attack. But I was in a astrology community and it was within 2 weeks of me having this surgery, it said, "Hey, here is a thing about breaking down of when and when you should not have medical procedures." It was specifically the date that I had it done. I was not supposed to have anything done on my face. And so it just was like, okay, I'm not sure what that was. I'm not sure if it was to better or worse or whatever it was, but there was some sort of psychic connection. And I still can't figure out if it was good or bad. But knowing that, I have clearing every morning when I wake up to make sure, because I feel like any sort of openness comes to me when I'm sleeping. That is when good, bad, non-physical beings come to me is when I'm sleeping. And so one of the first things I do when I wake up, and it's as easy as using the restroom, like
Totally.
thinking that these little practices of just drinking water and saying,
Yep.
I remove any negative energy. And it just takes a couple seconds. So that's just something in this is like you were saying, everybody's different, but adding just little bits in throughout your day, it's going to help you stay protected.
Absolutely. And I love that you pointed out that it can be this easy. It can be this quick. You don't need a 10-step removal process. For darker and deeper things, I do go
Yes.
through a process with people, especially the lineage-based stuff that I was mentioning. But like the entities that attach like on a day-to-day basis, it's like dust. It's literally like dust that accumulates. It's that mundane. When you get in the habit of clearing it out, you start to see how much more inspired you can live and how much more free you can be and how much more synchronicity comes to you. You're just clearing the landing strip so beautiful
Yeah.
things can land. So I love that you said it's as simple as going to the bathroom. It really is. It really is.
Welcome to Float Activity, the channel that guides you on a transformative journey towards spiritual wisdom, self-development, and healing practices, all aimed at elevating your intuition and aligning you with your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Kara Dempsey, and I'm thrilled to have you joining me as we learn together. Please subscribe and share this with a friend to help grow my channel. I appreciate you, and we'll chat soon.